I think this applies to really any pharmaceutical, right? We're not anti-medication in functional medicine. We just want to ask the question, what is your most effective option that causes you the least amount of side effects? And for some people, that medication fits that criteria. They need to be on it and it's life-saving and there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, again, it's being pro-choice, it's democratization of this information and having made people to have informed consent. But to have informed consent, you have to be informed and giving people choice to have whatever choice that they want and to give those choices to people. So there are people that should be on statin drugs and and anybody that is on a statin drug, talk with your doctor about this. The problem is it's such a reductive, oversimplified solution where everybody with cholesterol above 200 is automatically given a statin drug. And it's like, well, that's more marketing and commercialism and less actually nuance and context. Total cholesterol is just an incomplete perspective on the complexity of actual cardiometabolic health. So it could be a problem or not a problem. So I think the statistic is around 50%, about half of people who have heart attack and strokes actually have normal to low total cholesterol. So it's actually not a good predictor. It's like flipping a coin. So it could be a problem or not. So the better predictors is the total context of it. So what do we look at in functional medicine? And this is like not just me. This is any doctor that's trained through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And the Cleveland Clinic has a functional medicine center. Many mainstream institutions have functional medicine center. This is very much mainstream for people that are actually informed on this field of healthcare. And I'll say this too, these mainstream institutions are not spending millions and millions of dollars to open up functional medicine centers based off of woo-woo and quackery. They're doing this because the data speaks for itself and they see people getting healthy and they're ahead of the curve. It's nefarious to be against people getting healthy and actually seeing these labs improve. So better predictors for cardiovascular risk factors are going to be, first of all, running what's called an NMR test, which is a very conventional test. I mean, Quest calls it cardio IQ, and the LabCorp will call it NMR lipid profile. So it's a nuclear magnetic resonance. It's the subfractionation of particles that carry cholesterol. So you can anybody can get this. It's oftentimes covered by insurance. And you can look at what's called a small dense LDL particles, which are these little oxidized, rusted, I think of them as the kind of rusted BB bullets that can potentially tear through arterial walls, and they're associated in the research with increased risk of heart attack and stroke. So it's not the cholesterol in this case. It is the particles, which are protein that carry cholesterol. So they're sort of like cholesterol rafts, cholesterol like transporters. So it's high dense, small dense LDL particles, or what the lab would classify it as pattern B, which is the more oxidized pattern, and not enough of the pattern A, which is the fluffy, buoyant, protective particles, which are like little fluffy cotton balls. So the quote unquote bad cholesterol, LDL, can be transported in a good transporter or a bad transporter, or an oxidized or inflamed or non-inflamed. So it's really the inflammation that damages the particles that carry cholesterol. That's the problem. It's inflammation that damages these things. And then the liver makes these oxidized particles. So the context matters here too. You want to be in pattern A. These LDL particles, the bad, quote unquote, bad cholesterol actually behaves like good cholesterol. It's cardioprotective. So looking at NMR panel, we want to look also at HDL, or good cholesterol, which contributes to the total cholesterol. Some people can have 200 cholesterol, even 250, but really that 250 is mostly high HDL, good cholesterol, which is actually cardioprotective within reason. So we want to look out for low HDL. That's problematic. We want to look out for high small dense LDL particles. That's problematic. We want to look out for high triglycerides or circulating fat. That is a part of insulin resistance, which is really what's driving all these heart attack and strokes. It like doubles the risk factor. It's the leading cause of heart attack and stroke is insulin resistance. So that the body is so smart. Once they get blood sugar down and it starts to convert glucose or blood sugar as circulating fats or triglycerides. So in the optimal zone in functional medicine, we're looking at optimal, not average. We want triglycerides to be under 100. We want HDL to be in the 60s, 70s, something like that. We want small dense LDL particles to be as low as they can be, and the fluffy buoyant ones to be as high as they should be. And then we want to look at inflammation markers. High sensitivity C-reactive protein, very conventional test. The American Heart Association, the CDC And in functional medicine, we want hsCRP to be under 1, which is low inflammation. And then last marker I would say is high. We want to avoid high homocysteine, which is an inflammatory marker. It impacts heart attack and stroke risks, but it also can act as a neurotoxin. So it can contribute to brain inflammation too. And it's implicated in neurodegenerative problems like Alzheimer's too. That's not a coincidence that researchers even call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, and it's part of that homocysteine problem. That, as well as blood sugar and A1C, you're looking at your total 3-month average of your blood sugar. We want glucose to be under 90. We want A1C to be under 5.5, ideally. So all that to say is it's complex, and you cannot oversimplify it and say, oh, if it's above 200, give them a statin drug, because it's a very incomplete perspective on all these other markers that are important.